Truly going through this transition, leaving behind conveniences, leaving behind old belief systems that we've been attached to, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. And I think a lot of people are not going to be doing very well during this transition period.
We've been following or getting out of the way for far too long. It's time we buckle down and...
Hello and welcome to Seder Soul Selling. My name is Victoria Stensøy.
I'm Darwin Holmstrom.
And in this week's reading, we decided to see what the cards had to say about a potential World War III, as this is a topic a lot of people have spoken about and worried about, quite frankly, especially after what's been happening in Gaza.
There seems to be a real push to get a world war going of some sort. The people that our governments really represent, whatever they are, I mean, you could call them the archons, the ruling elite, the Illuminati, the deep state, the
shadow government,
the Khazarian mafia. It doesn't really matter what we call them. We can be certain that our governments do not represent the people of the world. The governments represent their own interests, and they represent somebody else's interests. Their own interest seems to be extracting as much capital from the world as possible while they serve whoever it is or whatever it is they serve.
So whatever brings a lot of money to the weapon industry, the pharmacy industry, is good stuff, even if it means that thousands of people will be dying.
They've been using the Hegelian dialectic for centuries. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The way that's phrased in popular culture today is problem, reaction, solution. So they create a problem, we react to the problem, and they introduce a supposed solution. A good example of this was a few years back on September of 2001. A couple of airplanes crashed into some high-rise towers in New York, and 3 towers collapsed because 2 airplanes hit them. That was the problem. The reaction was we were all scared out of our minds about terrorism. The solution was to create this Department of Homeland Security with this gigantic security police apparatus that controls everything. And now as a result, we have to take our shoes off at airports and they'll confiscate our toenail clippers. Solution. So a few years back, we had another problem. It was a virus that had a 0.07% death rate. And the reaction was that we were all terrified again, as if we were all going to die if we went outside the house with face diapers and stood closer than 2 meters from somebody.
You can take them off when you're eating at a restaurant.
Yeah, and the solution
doesn't come out then.
Was a pharmaceutical product, an untested pharmaceutical product that is causing upwards of 20% excess deaths to prevent, or it doesn't really do anything, a virus that has a 0.08% death rate on the worst estimates. And now the problem they're trying to introduce seems to be world war. It's like...
They're going old school now.
Yeah. Basically, they tried to start a world war with Ukraine, with Russia, and they couldn't sell it. Justin Trudeau brought a Nazi war criminal in front of Parliament for a standing ovation to try to sell the Ukraine war. They're throwing shit at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. Right now, they seem to be trying to start some sort of a war with Iran or whoever in the Middle East by apparently committing genocide in Gaza.
With all that said, let's see what the cards have to say about this particular situation. To start with, we got Temperance as our signifier. Now, we were a bit uncertain in this reading who or what the signifier represented, since usually this is the person that you give the reading to, or if it's a country, that's the country, if it's a government, whatever it might be. So we were wondering about that while I was shuffling the rest of the cards. The world card fell out just as I was thinking, well, perhaps this is the world. So that's what we're going with. And Temperance is kind of a perfect representation of what the world is going through right now. It might not look like that on the surface level because there's been so much chaos going on, but it's like Darwin said, like they're trying everything now. They're trying to create as much chaos and disorder as possible because this energy that the earth is going through, that we are going through as a collective, is inevitable. Temperance has to do with mending elements. It has to do with balance. It has to do with bringing everything together. So it's kind of like a period of reflection. There's not a lot of action going on here. There's not a lot of external energy. It's more this internal process. You might want to call this the awakening that is happening all over the planet right now. I think this is the reason why they're really trying hard to make the external world as chaotic as possible so that people kind of miss out on this energy that's kind of inevitable.
The Temperance card, it's the card of internal alchemy. If you look at this card, the figure has her foot's in the water, one foot's in the water, one foot's on the land, her head's in the air, and she has fire rising behind her. She's blending all the elements into herself. She's achieving unity consciousness. And I think that's happening in the world right now. And it's part of the reason that they're getting so desperate that they're trying to start a crude war by committing genocide. As people take ownership of their own personal sovereignty, as they bring the elements within themselves into accord, they're much harder to control through traditional means. The archons, whatever, the ruling elite, has been using media for over 100 years, since the dawn of newspapers, really, but especially since electronic media, to sell their propaganda, to use their mind control tricks to get us to react in the way they want us to react so that they can introduce their solution. And it's no longer working. People no longer have any faith whatsoever in any sort of corporate media. Their ability to control the narrative through propaganda has collapsed because of that. That's why they're failing to sell war in Ukraine. That's why when they tried to introduce the new Monkeypox, people just laughed at them. They've lost their grip on the narrative. And we've achieved personal sovereignty. Too many of us have. Many people still follow the narrative that they're fed. But too many of us are becoming aware of the reality of the situation for them to continue to control us. They're losing their ability to manipulate the herd. Us useless eaters are becoming a problem.
For the overall situation, we got a card that fits perfectly with Temperance, which is the Hermit. This is the going within card, the taking a step back, the not listening to all the noise and all the fear propaganda. And I think that's what's happening with people. They're no longer really following the narrative that the traditional media or the external world wants them to follow. And this is a big portion of the population right now. I think this happened during COVID too. And that might have been the positive side of the isolation. It made people think because they weren't so busy in the day-to-day. When you're in this energy, a lot of truth comes to you and you start realizing what is actually logical, what is real and what is not real. I think it's very necessary to start integrating the Temperance energy. I've got another major arcana for the gateway, which is the Magician. And I think this comes after Temperance, it comes after the Hermit card, it comes, and this is the more active energy of the three. This is really integrating our insights, our intuition, our new perspectives, and doing something about it. That's the key to all of this. I think this is the key to avoid the narrative that the elite are trying to have us go along with, is for us to go into this energy of, no, we got all of this at our disposal. We got this knowledge, we got these skills, and we got the power to say no and just do something different. Like use what we learned from this period of reflection, this period of the world seeming to fall apart and be like, okay, let's create a new narrative and let's be the magicians ourselves. Instead of giving away our sovereignty and our free will to governments that wants us to go to war or whatever they might want us to do. So for the root of this situation, we got the Two of Wands. And I think this represents the plan, right? The Two of Wands is kind of like, well, we executed this plan, we pushed all the buttons, we've tried to start this war, now we're kind of just waiting to see how the general public reacts. And people are reacting very harshly. There's a lot of protests all over now. And I don't think that's what they were rooting for. Well, they do want to divide and conquer, of course, but I don't think this will be working out very well for them.
Something has begun. There's some process that's been put into action. This is the merchant sent a ship out into the world, and I think this speaks to the awakening that's been occurring in people. I would say over the last 11 or 12 years in general, but especially over the last 3 years, when we've been seeing over and over again how we've been lied to, how the same people who are telling us that Israel needs to defend itself by committing genocide and basically by bombing an open-air prison camp in Gaza. These are the same people that told us that we had to get Saddam Hussein before he used a nuclear weapon on us. We've begun the process of owning our own personal sovereignty, of taking control of our own lives. And that's why we're such a threat to this ruling elite.
The card we pulled for the present moment is the Ten of Swords. And this has to do with being stabbed in the back. It has to do with betrayal. It has to do with hitting rock bottom. And it's also an ending card, ending of a difficult period. And I think with Temperance and the Hermit, they're going within, this really seeing with our eyes and really observing what's happening in a logical manner. People are waking more and more up to the fact that we've been betrayed by the people that are supposed to be in charge and that are supposed to be protecting the public and the collective. They're supposed to be the ones that are keeping us safe, and in fact, we're realizing that they're doing the opposite. And that although there might be benefits with governments in some senses and a lot of conveniences, it is truly overall, when you look at it like under a scope, it's not been good. And I think as we awaken from that is painful, because it's a scary feeling to realize that the people that are elected
or telling us the news, supposedly the news,
that the authorities are big brothers that are watching us and controlling us through all kinds of means, actually are not looking out for our better good at all. So it's kind of like a painful but a necessary moment at this point in time, because we're needing to make this shift, right? And it's an ending, so it's kind of like finally hitting bottom and finally opening our eyes to what's been going on.
When my grandparents finally got television and saw Walter Cronkite telling them that this is the way it is in Vietnam or whatever, that was as if God, his own self, had handed down the news in a stone tablet. I mean, they could not have conceived of questioning the narrative that was presented in the news. Today, if people see on the television news that a fireman rescued a cat, they realize that the cat is probably dead. It was probably shot by a startled police officer.
I'm sure that happens. For the planetary energies and the astrology, we got the Seven of Cups. And it's modified by the Four of Swords. Now this is perfect. It speaks very well to both Temperance, the Hermit, and also the Ten of Swords. The Seven of Cups has to do with leaving something behind. It's one of the journey cards, the travel cards, the going from one place to another, and it's probably the most mysterious one of them, because you're leaving something behind for something better, but you truly do not know what's on the other side. So it's a bit of a scary journey to undergo, because you don't really see the end point here. And it's modified by the Four of Swords, and this one is a bit like the Hermit card. It has to do with like taking downtime, reflecting, resting after like a hard period. See, this guy is resting, but very defeated way. This is more of a like, okay, taking a deep breath, taking some downtime and kind of figuring things out in a calm manner without being too much in survival mode. Which oh yeah. Then we got our personal future, psychological future. And this, I think this is inevitable too, because we're going to go through this journey and it's not going to be this smooth ride where we just say, no, we didn't like this whole government thing. We don't think that system worked out very well, and we're just gonna ease into this new and better way of living, because people will be having a lot of trouble with that. And we're very traumatized as a collective, and it's been going on for such a long time. So like truly going through this transition, leaving behind conveniences, leaving behind old belief systems that we've been attached to, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot, and I think a lot of people are not going to be doing very well during this transition period.
We are comfortable with being told what to think and what to do by somebody we trust. We've grown accustomed to the government protecting our dumb asses from our own selves.
And we've been dumbed down so that we believe that we need them to protect us. Because we kind of do. And that's the truth, I mean.
Well, a lot of people aren't. Victoria and I haven't been living in our home countries for quite a while. And a lot of people that we meet in the world live in places where the government doesn't keep them alive, and people that don't know how to be resourceful and not stand in front of a moving semi or a bus usually don't live long enough to reproduce. But where we come from, the government ensures that no matter how dumb we are,
you will survive and you'll have a decent life.
Yeah, and people are it's heartbreaking to know that there's not this deus ex machina, this God in the machine that's going to come and save us in the form of government or the media or Walter Cronkite.
And it's going to be harder in countries where people have relied on this heavily, right? In our fairs, we got the Seven of Wands. And I think this is speaking to people really fearing the battle. Like they really don't want a war. And even though they might be having an upper hand in it, they still don't want fighting. I think people are just fed up and they're sick of living in this world where there's always a new crisis. There's always somebody screaming at the news that now this is happening and you need to fight for your country, because they don't, after going through this realization of the betrayal, they're kind of saying, well, why am I fighting for these people at the top who aren't really looking out for me at all? So that's the fear. The fear is kind of being in this forced battle, and it's modified by the Queen of Cups, which is a much more feminine, emotional card. It has to do with feeling, right? So people really just don't feel like going into this unnecessary battle, and they'll much rather be in this state of like peace and harmony. I think that's what people are wanting. And going into World War III, like nobody, like ask people on the street, nobody's gonna want that.
No.
So I don't think they'll succeed in executing it.
We obviously fear these insane wars, and nobody wants a draft, and nobody wants to send their kids to die. I don't know, nobody wants to send their kids to commit genocide in Gaza. But it's more than that. I think what we're really afraid of is the active energy it's going to take for us to get through this. This is the gateway. This connects the past, the present, and the future. This connects the self, the psychology, and the events. This is what brings everything together, is this gateway card. And this is active energy, active magic. We have to take the power we create in ourselves when we own our own personal sovereignty, and we have to use that to move forward into the future, which actually looks pretty good when we get to it.
I think a lot of people, they're kind of becoming okay with the whole reflection period that Temperance and the Hermit brings about, because it's kind of inevitable at this point, but they're fearing the necessary action. They're fearing this journey that we're kind of being forced to go on right now, because there's really no way back. There's no way around it. And they're afraid of taking what they've learned, what they've discerned, and to integrate it into how they live their lives.
And desires, it's what we're going to have to do.
We desire the High Priestess. which is more of a feminine energy than our gateway card. So I think the magician, this active, masculine, action-oriented magic is what will be necessary to avoid this war that they want to create. What people want is more of this feminine approach right now, this more internal, this more pulling in, but it's modified by the Chariot, which is the warrior card. So I think it's a bit ironic. It's like, in order to avoid a World War III that will, be executed by the higher ups, the elites, we kind of need to go to war against them.
We're going to have to overcome our fears of the battle and act. I don't really see that we have a choice, because if we just sit quietly, the damn fools are going to take us to war with somebody.
Yeah, there's no sitting quietly. Like, you either follow orders and just go along with whatever they want you to go along with and sacrifice yourself and shoot people up, or we just say no.
As in the movie Idiocracy, lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah.
We've been following or getting out of the way for far too long. It's time we buckled down and started and became our own leaders.
And it's a bright future, guys. That's the key. Once we get through all this trauma, we got the Three of Pentacles, which is all about perfecting our craft, creating beautiful things. I think this has to do with people kind of needing to cut ties with Big Brother and the government and such conveniences, and really learning how to do shit themselves.
Yep.
I mean, this is like, well, whatever you're good at in this nice physical world, or whatever you've been wanting to get good at.
Do it really well.
Do it well. This is our chance.
Put everything you have into it. Use all your power, all your energy, and all your skills and resources.
So we're heading to like a new beginning. The Page of Pentacles, that's like earth energy. It's starting something. It's having this youthful energy, this kind of entrepreneurial energy, and being very optimistic about it, and not necessarily being fully skilled yet at the craft, but it's starting, and people will be needing to do that. It's modified by the Empress, which is yet another really, really positive feminine energy card, which has to do with fertility, has to do with more this feminine approach to things. Not, okay, we have an issue here with the community next door, we need to meet up at their doorstep with swords. This is like, no, this is taking a step back, negotiating,
saying,
talking
finding
about
out what their problem is, what we can do to help them, and what they can do to help us, and how we can work together.
This is very nourishing energy. It's very much the opposite of the kind of world we've been living in, which is all about like being in a battle, us against them. So what these cards are telling us is basically, yes, we need to start anew, and we won't know exactly the best way of doing things once this attempt for a war is failing, and once economy is failing, and once the old elites fall down. And we have to have a much more feminine approach to things, much more nourishing. What is the best for the collective, rather than, okay, how can I get as much money as possible, doing as little as possible, right? So people will need to like change their whole outlook on life, and it's going to be a challenging period, but people will be much happier in the end of this.
I'm a little hesitant to use these terms, but if you look at what this is saying, and a card's been saying that a lot lately, this is a new beginning for earth energy, and it's a very productive beginning. So I hate to use this new age term, but
here it comes.
We're really looking at moving into a new earth, a very productive, bountiful new earth. And the way we do that is we need to find a balance between our masculine and our feminine energies. We need to achieve unity consciousness. And Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, he said, don't fight the enemy on the battlefield of his choosing. Draw the enemy into the battlefield of your choosing. Throughout the age of Pisces, these archons, these Khazarian mafia, Illuminati creatures, David Icke thinks they might be reptiles.
We don't necessarily disagree.
I think I've seen one or two of them unhinge their jaws.
Charming.
Machiavelli, defined a nation state as an entity that had monopoly on the use of violence. Violence is the battlefield of their choosing. They're pretty good at it. If we want to go fight them with knives and guns and swords, they've got bigger knives and guns and swords. That's not what we need to do.
No.
We need to fight them within ourselves. The only reason they control us is because we grant them sovereignty over us. If we own our own personal sovereignty, then we control ourselves. And we'll channel Bartleby the Scrivener from the Herman Melville story. When they tell us to go to war, we'll say, I prefer not to. If Biden wants to start a draft to send people to, I don't know.
Whoever's the enemy this week.
Yeah, whoever the enemy is this week, he can send Hunter Biden to go fight the war. Give him some crystal meth or something and a gun.
Go on, boy.
Go on, boy. go do something worthwhile. We prefer not to.
And we hope you prefer not to. So for a summary here, don't go to war. War is bad. Nobody likes war. And start perfecting your craft and use your magic and just say no. And that will be of great help for the collective. And encourage other people to say no too. That a lot of people, they don't understand that they can say no. They've gotten so used to following orders. And time's up. And it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. We hope you enjoy this reading. Much more optimistic than the last one, even though the last one was good. Please like and subscribe to this video. That helps us out a lot so that we can continue reading cards for you. Contact us if you're interested in a personal reading. They might be of great help during these difficult times.
Our personal readings are much more focused and to the point than these general worldwide readings we've been doing. If you get a chance, it's worth checking out.
So with that said, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video.